In last week's video, I talked about how your brain can get hijacked by cheap stimulation like, social media and games, and how to fix that. But let's say you've done all of that. You've put the phone away, you've sat down to draw, and it works for a while, a few days, a few weeks maybe. And then one morning you just don't feel like it anymore. You don't want it. And it's not even because of your phone. It's not because of distractions. The motivation is gone and you don't even know why. No! Now, this has happened to me more times than I can count. And for the longest time, I thought it was more of a discipline problem. Well, turns out that it's not. There's a very specific reason why this happens. And when you understand it, just like I do now, you can actually diagnose it and fix it every time. Now, I guarantee you this will be pretty eye-opening. So let's get into it. So there's this theory in psychology called the Self-Determination Theory. It was developed by two researchers called Deci and Ryan in like the 1970s. And it's been tested over thousands of studies over decades. And it's one of the most well-supported framework to understand motivation. And what it found is pretty fascinating. Your brain needs exactly 3 things to stay motivated long-term at anything. Like not 10, not 50, just 3. And they kind of work like switches that you turn on and off. When all 3 switches are turned on, motivation feels effortless almost. But if just one of them is switched off, now everything starts to feel more like a grind. And most people will blame themselves for being lazy when in fact it just happened to accidentally switch one of those switches off without realizing it. And here are those 3 switches. So the first one is autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And I'm gonna break each and every one of those down because I guarantee one of these, if not more, is switched off for you. So switch number 1 is autonomy. This is the feeling that you're in control of what you do and why you do it. Like the feeling you're drawing because you chose to and not because someone else is telling you to. This probably seems obvious, but it's one of those that's shockingly easy to lose without realizing it. Just thinking about how most people go about learning art. Like maybe you'll watch a video that tells you that you need to study anatomy a certain way. So you start to study anatomy. And then another video tells you that you should be doing gesture drawing every single day. So you add that to the list. And then you read on Reddit maybe that you should be doing master studies all the time. Otherwise, you're not progressing. So you start to do that too, I guess. Before you know it, your entire study schedule is just made up of stuff that other people are telling you to do, not what you actually want to do. And of course, your brain will register this as a loss of autonomy, which tanks your motivation and you can't really pinpoint why. You just start to feel like everything now is turning into more of a chore, like homework almost, instead of being something that you wanted to do in the first place. And of course, this explains why a lot of professionals like me who do art for a living can easily lose motivation because we put ourselves in situations where we have to draw, right? For financial reasons, our income depends on it. I've gone through this so many times in the past, and here's how I kind of solved it. So I've made a rule for myself. I made a rule where at least a solid half of everything I paint or draw has to be 100% for me. Like not studies of stuff that I know that I should practice to get better because they're my weaknesses. That 50% is just things that I enjoy purely for the fun of it. Of course, the studies and the drills still matter to improve, but they cannot take more than 50% of my time, or I found that I just risk to lose what, got me into drawing in the first place. It's the fun of it. So like if you're dreading your practice sessions, I would ask you to seriously consider how much of what you're actually practicing or studying has been decided by you versus by somebody else, or like a video. And if the answer is not much, well, you probably found a broken switch. So that's autonomy. Now, switch number 2 is competence. This is the feeling when you're getting better, that you can see yourself improving. Your brain needs that stuff like a plant needs water. When you see yourself improving just a little bit, your brain rewards you with motivation, and that's what allows you to keep going. But when you can't see the progress, like when you're feeling stuck, well, motivation just starts to evaporate because your brain just starts to question if what you're working on right now is just maybe a waste of time. Like this takes a lot of brain power. Is the effort really worth it? And of course, we all know this, but the problem is art improvement is very slow on a day-to-day basis. Like most of the time, you won't really see a significant difference between one day and the next. It's just too incremental, and because you can't see it, well, your brain just starts to think nothing is happening. So this is more of a perception problem, not an actual progress problem. You are improving, of course, every time you draw something, but your brain just can't detect it without some help. It's very similar to lifting weights. If you hit the gym, that progress is slow. On a day-to-day, you won't really notice, but months, then you start to see the progress and it becomes undeniable. So there's a couple things we can do to help fix that switch. One big one that so many people don't do enough is to track your progress over time, long term. So I would maybe take, like your best piece every month and then put them in a separate folder and do that for at least like 12 months. And when you look back 12 months later, like the results should genuinely shock you, especially, if you made a point to kind of draw something similar every month at least once, so that you have something that's easy to compare month to month. Because of course, like seeing progress this way helps make your competence more visible. But another really important one would be to stop tackling subjects that are well outside your comfort zone. Because of course, it's really hard to feel motivated when you're struggling from start to finish every single time. So to fix this, my secret is to only keep 30%, like only stretch for 30% of the whole process and keep a solid 70% of stuff that's well within my comfort zone, like stuff that's easy for me to do. Now, regardless of your level, you should also have things that come easier for you. So always make sure to prioritize that and just keep things that you're learning, like the stuff that you struggle with, to a minimum. So this way you don't switch off your feeling of competence like in the short term, and tracking your progress long term also helps keep that feeling of competence when, let's say, you occasionally miscalculate and end up, working on a project that's maybe a little harder than you were planning to, where you're struggling a little bit more. Then you'll always be able to look back at kind of the long-term progress and have sort of a confirmation that whatever you're doing is actually working, even though that one piece, might not be turning as well as you wanted. And then we have switch number 3, relatedness. So this is the need to feel connected to people that are doing something similar, to feel that you're part of something, that you're not just doing this in your own little room, completely isolated. And humans are social creatures. Doing hard things in isolation is really, really hard long term. But doing hard things alongside others is surprisingly energizing. And that's kind of irrelevant of you being an introvert or an extrovert. Like, think why maybe gyms work better than home workouts for most people. Like, I have a home gym and I can definitely see a big difference. Being around others is just more motivating. Like, there's something that changes in your brain when you see others also pushing themselves. It just makes you want to do the same thing. And of course, art is no different. If you're practicing alone with no community, no feedback, no one to share your progress with, well, your relatedness switch is off and you are making motivation unnecessarily hard on yourself. Now, this doesn't mean you need to become an extrovert and go out and do art meetups and maybe like figure drawing sessions with other people. If that's not your thing, there's still online communities. Join like a Discord where people share their daily work, like we have for my art program. Maybe participate in drawing challenges where like hundreds of other people are working towards the same goal. Follow other artists at your level and engage with their work. Like not just aspirational professionals, but also people that are in the trenches with you. Even just knowing that people are going through the same struggles can be immensely motivating. And here's why the system is so powerful. When your motivation drops, and it will drop at some point for sure, well, you don't need to question your entire identity. You just have to run through the 3 switches. Am I drawing something that I actually want to draw, or is my whole schedule something that somebody else planned for me? That's autonomy. Can I see evidence that I'm actually getting better, or does it feel like I'm stuck? That's competence. And am I connected to other people on this journey, or am I just grinding at this alone? That's relatedness. Oh Jesus. And usually one of them is off. Fix that one and motivation should come back. It's that mechanical. It's not magic and it's not about being more disciplined. You just got to give your brain the 3 things that it needs to stay engaged. And this is also something that I instinctively thought a lot about when I was building my art school program, although I wasn't yet aware of the science behind it all back then. It's the sponsor of this video. The art school program is structured to support all 3 switches. You choose which direction to take your art and what to draw in every single class. So despite having a really strong structure around you, your autonomy stays intact. The progression is designed so you're always building on what you just learned, and you can see yourself leveling up as you make your way through the 10 terms of the curriculum, which keeps competence visible. And we have an awesome community of thousands of students on the school's Discord, which means you're never doing it alone, and that handles relatedness. Now, lucky of you if you're watching this soon after I uploaded, because the spring sale is still going on right now until the end of the month only. So check the link in the video description for all the details. Join us if you want to take your art to the next level. I guarantee you will. Now here's one last very important thing. These 3 switches aren't something that you just set and forget about. They need maintenance. Your autonomy can easily slip if you start to watching maybe too many of like, you should do this type of tutorials. Your feeling of competence can dip if you're not making like short-term progress, or at least as much as you want, and you're not tracking long-term progress. And your relatedness can slip if you drift away from your community. Check in on these regularly. So when your motivation dips, and it will, that's normal, don't panic. Just check all of those switches. Make sure they're all switched on. Now, the research on this goes back 50 years, and the conclusion is always the same. When these 3 needs are met, motivation just takes care of itself. But when even one is missing, you're fighting uphill. Don't fight uphill. And if you haven't seen last week's video on the dopamine side of this, watch that one next, by the way. It pairs perfectly well with this one because together they combine both the chemistry and the psychology of staying motivated. And that video will appear here in just a second, so click on that and I'll see you over there.